Mia Jensen smoothed down her beige dress as she approached the glass doors of the Monarch, one of Washington's most prestigious restaurants. At 45, she carried herself with quiet confidence born from decades in the culinary industry. The restaurant's facade gleamed with polished brass and elegant lighting, a stark contrast to the more casual establishments she typically frequented. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath. 3 weeks earlier, Mia had received a call that changed everything. Maxwell Reed, a culinary legend she'd met at a chef's conference 5 years ago, had passed away after a long illness. To her shock, Maxwell's lawyer informed her that his final wish was to offer Mia the opportunity to purchase the Monarch, the crown jewel of his restaurant empire. "He always admired your integrity and vision," the lawyer had explained. "He believed you would honor the restaurant's legacy while bringing your own touch to it." The transaction had been handled discreetly through Maxwell's legal team. Maxwell had merely informed his staff that the restaurant had been sold to a new owner who would be taking over soon. No names, no details, just the promise of a transition period before the official introduction. Mia had debated for days before agreeing to purchase the restaurant. She'd spent 25 years working her way up in the industry, from dishwasher to line cook, eventually becoming an executive chef and restaurant consultant. The Monarch represented everything she'd worked toward, recognition at the highest level of fine dining. But before announcing herself as the new owner, Mia wanted to experience the Monarch as a customer. She needed to understand the restaurant's atmosphere, the quality of service, and how the staff interacted with patrons. It was a practice she'd developed over years of restaurant consulting. See it through the customer's eyes first. As she pulled open the heavy glass door, the soft sounds of a jazz quartet welcomed her. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over white tablecloths and polished silverware. The maitre d', a slender man with a precise bow tie, glanced up from his podium. "Good evening, madam. Do you have a reservation?" His tone was professional, but cool, his eyes quickly assessing her simple attire. "Yes, for Jensen. Mia Jensen, party of one," she replied, maintaining eye contact. The maitre d' scanned his list, his expression flickering with surprise. "Ah yes, Ms. Jensen. We don't often get solo diners here at the Monarch." Mia offered a polite smile. "I understand. Still, I've heard wonderful things about your chef's tasting menu." He nodded stiffly and gestured to a young woman in a crisp, black uniform. "Nina will show you to your table." As Mia followed the hostess through the dining room, she couldn't help but notice the curious glances from other patrons. The Monarch was clearly a place for power players and celebrations. Tables were occupied by couples in evening wear, groups of business executives in expensive suits, and what appeared to be political figures surrounded by attentive staff. Nina led her to a small table near the kitchen doors. Not the worst table in the house, but certainly not the best. Mia noted this detail mentally as she sat down. "Your server will be with you shortly," Nina said, placing a leather-bound menu before her. Left alone, Mia took the opportunity to observe. The restaurant hummed with efficient energy. Servers moved with practiced precision. Sommeliers presented bottles with flourish, and plates emerged from the kitchen like works of art. She recognized the choreography of high-end service, appreciating the skill behind it. At a nearby table, a couple was being served champagne by a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit. His silver hair was perfectly styled, and a distinctive bow tie completed his refined appearance. He spoke with animation, making the couple laugh as he recommended the evening's specials. From the deference shown by other staff, Mia quickly deduced this must be the restaurant manager. She watched him move from table to table, his manner changing subtly with each group. With the business executives, he was respectfully formal. With the apparent politicians, he was deferential and attentive. With the elderly couple celebrating what looked like an anniversary, he was charm personified. Mia opened her menu, curious to see how Maxwell's culinary vision had been maintained. The prices were as steep as expected, but that didn't concern her. What interested her was the balance between tradition and innovation, and whether the restaurant had kept pace with evolving tastes. A server approached her table, notepad in hand. His smile seemed fixed, his enthusiasm noticeably dimmer than what he displayed at the tables of more obviously affluent guests. "Good evening, ma'am. My name is Lucas. I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you with something from the bar?" Mia smiled warmly. "Good evening, Lucas. Yes, I'd love a glass of your house bourbon, neat." Lucas's eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded. "Right away, ma'am." As he walked away, Mia settled in, ready to experience what would soon be her restaurant. Mia sipped her bourbon slowly, savoring its complex notes while discreetly observing the restaurant's operations. The Monarch ran like a well-oiled machine, with servers gliding between tables and sommeliers offering wine pairings with practiced ease. Yet there was something mechanical about the service, efficient but lacking warmth. Lucas returned to take her order, his demeanor professional but reserved. "Have you decided, ma'am?" "I'd like to try the chef's tasting menu, please," Mia replied. "And I'd love the wine pairings as well." A flicker of surprise crossed Lucas's face. The tasting menu was the Monarch's premium offering, 7 courses, with optional wine pairings that doubled the already substantial price. "Of course, ma'am, that's an excellent choice." His tone suggested he thought it might be beyond her means, but he dutifully noted her selection. As Lucas left, Mia noticed the silver-haired manager watching from across the room. He whispered something to another server, who glanced in her direction and nodded. Mia pretended not to notice, focusing instead on the elegant place settings and the fresh flowers adorning each table. Her first course arrived promptly, a delicate amuse-bouche presented on a porcelain spoon. The flavors were exquisite, a testament to the kitchen's talent. Mia made mental notes about the balance of flavors in the presentation, already thinking of subtle improvements she might suggest once she officially took over. Between courses, she observed the manager more closely. His name was Gregory, she learned, as she overheard other staff addressing him. He moved through the dining room with the confidence of someone who considered the space his domain. His interactions with guests were polished, yet there was an undercurrent of something else, a certain calculation in how he distributed his attention. By her third course, Mia had noticed a pattern. Gregory lavished attention on tables with obvious displays of wealth, expensive watches, designer attire, or prominent figures he seemed to recognize. Other tables received competent but perfunctory service. It was subtle, but to Mia's experienced eye unmistakable. As she finished a perfectly seared scallop, Gregory approached her table. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes as he introduced himself. "Good evening, madam. I'm Gregory Harlow, General Manager of the Monarch. I hope you're enjoying your meal." His tone was courteous but lacked the warmth he'd shown to other guests. "It's lovely," Mia replied. The scallop was perfectly cooked. Gregory nodded, his gaze flickering over her simple dress and understated jewelry. "The chef's tasting menu is quite ambitious. Our sommelier will be by shortly with your next wine pairing." There was a slight emphasis on ambitious that didn't escape Mia's notice. "I've been looking forward to dining here for some time," she said, maintaining her composure. "I understand the previous owner, Mr. Reed, was quite particular about maintaining standards." A shadow crossed Gregory's face. "You knew Maxwell?" "We met at a culinary conference several years ago," Mia explained, watching his reaction carefully. Gregory's demeanor shifted slightly. "I see. Well, Maxwell built this restaurant on a commitment to a certain caliber of dining experience. We strive to maintain that legacy." The implication hung in the air between them, a suggestion that she might not quite fit that caliber. "I'm sure you do," Mia replied evenly. Gregory offered a tight smile. "Please enjoy the rest of your meal. If there's anything you need, within reason of course, don't hesitate to ask." As he walked away, Mia noticed him approach a nearby table, where a couple was loudly discussing their recent yacht purchase. Gregory's posture transformed. Shoulders relaxed, smile broadened, manner suddenly oozing with genuine warmth. Throughout the next few courses, Mia continued her quiet observation. The food was exceptional, though not quite as innovative as she'd hoped. The service was precise but performed with a detachment that suggested routine rather than passion. Her attention was repeatedly drawn to the staff interactions. While some, like Lucas, simply seemed to mirror Gregory's attitude toward less affluent-appearing guests, others appeared uncomfortable with this approach. One young server in particular, Nina, who had shown her to her table, seemed to wince whenever Gregory made a dismissive comment about a guest. When Lucas brought her fifth course, Mia engaged him in conversation about the restaurant's history. Though initially reserved, he began to open up as she showed genuine interest. "I've been here 5 years," he told her, "since before Mr. Reed fell ill." "What was he like as an owner?" Mia asked. Lucas's expression softened. "The best. He knew everyone's name, from the dishwashers to the sommelier. Treated everyone with respect." He lowered his voice. "Things have been different since he stepped back from daily operations." Mia nodded thoughtfully. "I imagine leadership sets the tone." "You have no idea," Lucas replied before catching himself. "Excuse me, I shouldn't—" "No need to apologize," Mia assured him. "I appreciate your candor." As Lucas walked away, Mia made a mental note. The restaurant had a solid foundation. Excellent food, beautiful setting, skilled staff, but its culture had clearly shifted under Gregory's management. It was precisely the kind of situation she specialized in addressing as a consultant. Now, as the owner, she would have the authority to make real changes. Mia had just begun her dessert course, a deconstructed chocolate soufflé with artisanal vanilla bean ice cream, when a commotion at the entrance caught her attention. A group of 4 men in expensive suits entered, loudly greeting Gregory, who rushed to welcome them with unprecedented enthusiasm. "Senator Phillips." "What an unexpected pleasure," Gregory exclaimed, his voice carrying across the dining room. "Your usual table isn't ready, but I'll make arrangements immediately." Mia watched as Gregory snapped his fingers at the staff, creating a flurry of activity. 2 servers quickly began resetting a large table in the restaurant's prime location, while others hurried to bring champagne flutes and an ice bucket. Mia's server, Lucas, was pulled away mid-explanation of her dessert to help accommodate the new arrivals. She didn't mind. It gave her an opportunity to continue observing Gregory's management style in action. As the evening progressed, the senators' group grew increasingly boisterous, their laughter and conversation dominating the previously subdued atmosphere. Gregory hovered nearby, laughing at their jokes and personally ensuring their glasses were never empty. When Mia finished her meal, she signaled for the check. Lucas brought it promptly but seemed distracted and harried from juggling her table and helping with the senator's party. "Everything was excellent," Mia told him sincerely. "I'd like to speak with the sommelier before I leave, if possible." The wine pairings were exceptional. Lucas looked flustered. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but Dominic, our head sommelier, is currently attending to Senator Phillips's table. Perhaps I could convey your compliments?" "Of course," Mia replied, understanding the young man's dilemma. "But there was one particular wine I wanted to ask about, the Bordeaux that accompanied the lamb course." Lucas hesitated. "Let me see if he can spare a moment." As Lucas walked away, Mia noticed Gregory observing their interaction with a frown. He intercepted Lucas, leaning in to whisper something that made the server's shoulders tense. A moment later, Gregory approached her table himself, his expression a mask of polite condescension. "Madam," he began, his voice deliberately loud enough to be heard at nearby tables. "I understand you're requesting our head sommelier's attention." Mia nodded calmly. "Yes, I wanted to inquire about one of the wines in the pairing. It was quite extraordinary." Gregory's smile tightened. "I'm afraid Dominic is occupied with Senator Phillips' party. As you can appreciate, we must prioritize our regular patrons." The emphasis on regular hung in the air, a clear implication that she didn't qualify for such consideration. "Of course," Mia replied evenly. "Perhaps you could answer my question instead. The Bordeaux with the lamb course, is that available by the bottle?" Gregory's eyebrows rose slightly. That particular vintage retails for approximately $300 per bottle. He named a price significantly higher than the market value, watching for her reaction. That seems reasonable, Mia said. I'd like to purchase a bottle to take home. A flicker of surprise crossed Gregory's face before he composed himself. I'm not certain we can accommodate that request. Our wine selection is curated specifically for in-house dining experiences. Mia maintained her composure. I understand, but I'd be happy to pay a premium for the convenience. Gregory's mask of civility began to slip. Madam, this isn't a liquor store. The Monarch caters to a particular clientele with a sophisticated understanding of fine dining etiquette. His voice had risen, attracting the attention of nearby diners. Mia felt their eyes on her, some curious, others embarrassed on her behalf. I'm well aware of dining etiquette, Mia replied calmly. I simply enjoyed the wine and wished to purchase a bottle. Gregory let out a short, derisive laugh. Perhaps somewhere else would be more appropriate for your needs. We can recommend several establishments with more accessible options. The word accessible dripped with condescension. A hush fell over the nearby tables as diners pretended not to listen. Mia reached for her drink, taking a slow, deliberate sip. In the tense quiet, the ice clinked audibly against the glass. She could feel Gregory's smug satisfaction at having put her in her place, a woman in a simple dress who dared to request special treatment in his prestigious establishment. What Gregory didn't realize was that Mia's calm exterior concealed not embarrassment but calculation. As she took another sip, she caught the eye of a distinguished older gentleman at a nearby table. He gave her a small, sympathetic nod, clearly uncomfortable with Gregory's behavior. Gregory, mistaking her silence for humiliation, leaned in closer. Your bill has been prepared, unless there's anything else. The dismissal in his tone was unmistakable. Mia placed her glass down carefully. Actually, there is one more thing, she said, her voice steady. I'd like to know how long you've been managing the Monarch. Taken aback by the unexpected question, Gregory replied automatically. 5 years. I was personally selected by Mr. Reed. The lie came easily to his lips. Mia nodded thoughtfully. Interesting. Thank you for the information, Gregory. She placed her credit card on the bill tray. That will be all for now. As Gregory walked away with her payment, Mia pulled out her phone and made a brief note. The humiliation had been public and deliberate, and it had told her everything she needed to know about the man currently running what would soon be her restaurant. She waited until Gregory was out of earshot before quietly asking a passing server, "Excuse me, could you tell me when your shifts end this evening? I'd like to leave an additional gratuity for the kitchen staff." The server, surprised by the request, hesitated. "The kitchen closes at 11, ma'am." "Perfect," Mia replied with a smile. "Thank you." Mia stepped out of the Monarch into the cool, evening air, Gregory's mocking laughter still echoing in her mind. She took a deep breath, centering herself. For a moment, she stood motionless under the restaurant's elegant awning, watching the valet rush to retrieve luxury vehicles for departing diners. Instead of heading home, Mia walked to a small coffee shop across the street. She ordered a simple black coffee and settled into a corner table with a clear view of the Monarch's entrance. From her bag, she pulled out a leather-bound notebook and began to write, occasionally glancing up at the restaurant. At precisely 11:05 p.m., Mia watched as kitchen staff began to exit through a side door. They looked tired, but were chatting amiably. She recognized Lucas among them, his bow tie now loosened around his neck. Mia gathered her things and made her way across the street. Lucas noticed her approaching and looked surprised. "Ms. Jensen, did you forget something?" "Actually, I was hoping to speak with you and some of the other staff," Mia said, glancing at the small group that had gathered. "I'd like to buy you all a drink if you're interested." The staff exchanged curious looks. Nina, the hostess from earlier, stepped forward hesitantly. "Why would you want to do that?" she asked, her tone suggesting genuine confusion rather than suspicion. Mia smiled warmly. "Let's just say I had an illuminating dining experience this evening. and I'd like to learn more about the Monarch from the people who know it best. 20 minutes later, Mia sat in a booth at a nearby pub with Lucas, Nina, and 2 other staff members, Marco, a line cook, and Zoe, a server. Initial awkwardness had given way to curiosity as Mia carefully asked questions about their experiences working at the restaurant. "How long have each of you been at the Monarch?" she began. 3 years, Nina offered. 5 years, Lucas said, since before Mr. Reed got sick. Marco had been there 7 years, Zoe just over a year. Each had stories about the restaurant's gradual transformation. "It was different under Mr. Reed," Marco explained, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "He cared about the food, about creating experiences for everyone who walked through the door, not just the VIPs. "When did Gregory take over?" Mia asked casually. Lucas and Nina exchanged glances. "About 3 years ago," Lucas said. "Mr. Reed was too ill to be involved day to day, and Gregory was promoted from assistant manager. He told me he was personally selected by Maxwell Reed." "He's been saying he's been managing for 5 years, Mia noted. Marco snorted. "That's not true. Gregory was hired by the previous manager. Mr. Reed barely knew him." As the conversation continued, a picture emerged of a once beloved establishment that had lost its way. Gregory had implemented policies that prioritized profits and prominent guests while cutting corners on staff training and ingredient quality. Employee turnover had increased, particularly among those who remembered the restaurant's better days. "I'm only still here because I need the money," Zoe admitted. "The tips are good, but the atmosphere is toxic." Mia listened intently, mentally cataloging each detail. By the time she paid for their drinks, she had made her decision. "Thank you all for being so candid," she said as they prepared to leave. "I appreciate your insights more than you know." "Can I ask why you're so interested?" Nina inquired, studying Mia with newfound curiosity. "Are you a food critic or something?" Mia smiled enigmatically. "Let's just say I have a vested interest in the Monarch's future. I hope to see you all again very soon." As she watched them walk away, Mia pulled out her phone and dialed a number. When the call connected, her voice was firm and decisive. "Stephen, it's Mia. I need you to move up the timeline. I'll be announcing my ownership of the Monarch tomorrow, not next week." She ended the call and looked back at the restaurant, its elegant facade now dark except for security lighting. Gregory's days of laughter at others' expense were numbered. Dawn broke over Washington as Mia sat in her home office, surrounded by documents relating to the Monarch. She'd been up most of the night reviewing the financial records and operational reports that had been part of the purchase agreement. On her computer screen was an email from Stephen Winters, the attorney who had handled the acquisition. It contained the digital files she'd requested in their late-night call: staff records, vendor contracts, and the restaurant's books for the past 5 years. Mia took a sip of coffee, her trained eye quickly spotting anomalies in the accounting. Small discrepancies, nothing that would immediately raise alarms, but a pattern that suggested systematic skimming. Gregory had been clever about it: a slight markup on vendor invoices here, an unaccounted cash transaction there. Her phone rang. It was Lucas, responding to the text she'd sent after their pub conversation. "Ms. Jensen, I got your message. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking." "I appreciate your call, Lucas," Mia replied. "I believe there may be some irregularities in the Monarch's operations, and I'm hoping you might be able to provide some context." Lucas hesitated. "I'm not sure I should be discussing this. If Gregory found out—" "I promise you complete confidentiality," Mia assured him, "and protection from any repercussions." After a moment's silence, Lucas agreed to meet her at a small cafe several blocks from the restaurant. An hour later, Mia watched as Lucas nervously stirred his coffee. She had carefully explained that she was considering an investment in the Monarch and wanted to ensure everything was above board. "There are things that don't make sense," Lucas admitted finally. "Gregory keeps a separate ledger in his office. We're instructed to route certain high-value wine sales through that system, especially when customers pay in cash." "Do you have access to these records?" Mia asked. Lucas shook his head. "No." But he lowered his voice. "Nina does. She helps with administrative tasks. She's mentioned that some of the numbers don't add up. By mid-afternoon, Mia had spoken with Nina as well. The young woman had provided screenshots of the separate accounting system, evidence that Gregory was indeed siphoning funds, primarily by selling rare wines off the books and pocketing the cash. "Why haven't you reported this?" Mia asked gently. Nina looked down. "Gregory has connections with the restaurant group that officially manages the Monarch. Anyone who complains gets fired. We all need our jobs." Mia nodded sympathetically. "I understand. Thank you for trusting me with this." At 4 p.m., Mia met with Chef Reese Sullivan, who had been with the Monarch for nearly a decade. Initially, reluctant to speak, he gradually opened up about Gregory's cost-cutting measures and the declining quality of ingredients. "Maxwell would be devastated to see what's happening," Reese said, his voice thick with emotion. "We were known for sourcing the finest seasonal produce. Now Gregory substitutes inferior products and charges the same premium prices." Mia's final meeting of the day was with Dominic, the sommelier who had been too busy with Senator Phillips to speak with her the previous night. They met at a wine shop across town, where Dominic confirmed Lucas's account of the shadow wine sales. "I've been documenting everything," Dominic said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "I was close to Maxwell. This isn't right." By evening, Mia had compiled enough evidence to justify immediate action. Gregory wasn't just a poor manager with an elitist attitude. He was actively defrauding the restaurant and destroying Maxwell Reed's legacy in the process. She called Stephen again. "I need you to arrange an emergency meeting with the restaurant staff tomorrow morning before opening, and contact the restaurant group's board. We'll need them there too." As she hung up, Mia felt a mix of anger and resolve. Tomorrow would be a day of reckoning, not just for Gregory but for everyone who had enabled his behavior. Mia arrived at the Monarch at 8 a.m. sharp, dressed not in yesterday's simple beige dress but in a tailored navy suit that radiated quiet authority. Stephen Winters walked beside her, carrying a leather portfolio containing all the evidence they had gathered. The restaurant's private dining room was already filling with confused staff members. Mia noted that Gregory stood near the head of the table, his face twisted with irritation as he checked his watch repeatedly. When the last board member from the restaurant group had taken their seat, Mia nodded to Stephen, who closed the door. "Good morning," Mia began, her voice clear and confident. "I appreciate you all being here on such short notice." Gregory stepped forward. "Excuse me, but who authorized this meeting, and who exactly are you?" Mia smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "I'm Mia Jensen. As of 3 weeks ago, I am the owner of the Monarch." A collective gasp swept through the room. Gregory's face drained of color. "That's impossible," he stammered. "The restaurant group no longer manages this property," Stephen interjected smoothly, distributing copies of the purchase agreement. "Ms. Jensen acquired the Monarch through a private transaction with Maxwell Reed's estate." Mia took a step toward Gregory, whose arrogant demeanor had entirely collapsed. "I visited my restaurant as a customer yesterday evening," she said, maintaining eye contact with him. "I had a most educational experience." Gregory swallowed hard. "Ms. Jensen, I had no idea." Clearly, Mia cut him off. "You also had no idea that I've spent the last 18 hours investigating your management practices." She turned to address the entire room. "I've discovered numerous irregularities in the Monarch's operations, including financial discrepancies, quality control issues, and a toxic workplace culture." Mia nodded to Stephen, who began presenting the evidence they had gathered. The shadow accounting system, the wine scheme, the vendor markup arrangements, and testimonials from staff members. As Gregory's fraudulent activities were revealed, he seemed to physically shrink, his previous confidence evaporating entirely. "This is defamation," he tried weakly, but the evidence was overwhelming. "Your employment is terminated, effective immediately," Mia stated firmly. "I've already spoken with law enforcement regarding potential criminal charges." Security had been discreetly arranged. As they approached to escort Gregory from the premises, he finally found his voice. "You set me up," he accused, his tone desperate. Coming in here dressed like that, acting like, Mia raised an eyebrow. Acting like what, Gregory? Someone who doesn't meet your standards? Someone who doesn't belong in your prestigious establishment? The room fell silent as the impact of her words registered. Yesterday's humiliation had been witnessed by many staff members present, and now they understood it in an entirely new context. I didn't need to set you up, Mia continued calmly. You revealed your true character all on your own. As Gregory was led away, Mia turned to address the remaining staff, her expression softened. The monarch has a proud legacy that has been compromised in recent years. Together we're going to restore it, not as a playground for the elite, but as a restaurant that welcomes all who appreciate exceptional food and genuine hospitality. She caught Lucas's eye across the room. He was smiling, relief evident on his face. Every one of you who has tried to maintain standards despite difficult circumstances has my gratitude, Mia concluded. This is a new beginning for the monarch. I hope you'll all be part of it. As the meeting dispersed, Mia found herself surrounded by staff members eager to introduce themselves properly. The atmosphere had transformed from tension to cautious optimism. Chef Reese approached, extending his hand. Thank you, he said simply. Maxwell would be pleased. Mia nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with preserving her mentor's legacy. The monarch is going to be fine, she assured him. More than fine. Looking around at the historic restaurant that was now hers, Mia felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Yesterday's humiliation had been temporary, but today's victory would endure.